7 floor.
We'll see you around the timeline. Feels good to be back.
I think The Rollup is one of the most premier media brands in crypto, and Andy and Robbie are great experts at everything they talk about, and it's my favorite podcast.
Adding it to my library as we speak.
Potentially multi-chain deployments.
We are at DevConnect Day 1 here. I'm with Jesse from Base. JP Morgan, BlackRock, DTCC, Fidelity. The entire thing was just institutions. It's next level. This industry is going to the next level. And guys, I don't know what else to say. I'm bullish.
He said it. He finally said it.
I'm so bullish.
Andy's bullish. I'm bullish. We're bullish. Is headed to the top. If we're not already at the top, we're going to the top.
We're going.
Rollup is my favorite.
People from all walks of life, all over the world, all over this industry, come together for the roll-up.
Zoom out. The institutions aren't coming. They're simply here. It's the golden age of crypto, guys. Get right. Let's go.
Welcome to the nest. See you on the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tokenization Tower, the Nest, broadcasting live from the financial capital of the world. You're watching The Rollup. Today is May 21st. We have a great show ahead. Rob, what's going on, man?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what's going on. It is 4 words, a total of 14 letters. Hype, Zek, near, VVV. And
Flying.
yeah, that is exactly what's going on. There's really nothing else going on besides these things. They're causing mass hysteria, bullishness if you're allocated, disappointment, almost depression if you're not, pure disbelief in the market. No matter which way you look at it.
All-time highs for VVV coming right now. Hyperliquid today.
Yeah. I mean, Hype, Zcash, Near, effectively ended Bankless. They, caused them to lay off a significant portion of their company. Honestly, shout out to those guys. I remember watching Bankless back in 2020, and it was great content back then. So back when everyone was Ethereum pilled,
Yeah, man.
the Ethereum
They onboarded so many people to DeFi as well. I remember reading their early blogs, the early days of DeFi Slate.
Yep.
Man, it's the end of an era.
The end of an era, indeed.
How about that Arthur Hayes episode?
Oh, okay. So we're making that one public.
We got a banger coming for you guys.
Guys, we recorded this podcast earlier today. Obviously, Arthur is in a new time zone every week. So
in Asia somewhere.
So we're working around with time zones, but we were able to get him. The thing about this one, it's not just an Arthur Hayes episode. Feel like some of the biggest bangers with Arthur come when he's tag teaming it.
He's provoked.
So if you guys remember, around the holidays last year, maybe last fall, we had Arthur and Murat, Murad, the meme coin.
That was 2 years ago. That was
2 years ago.
That was end of 2024.
Yeah, it was. Yep. And that was an absolute banger. Probably the craziest thumbnail in the roll-up history. And then today we had Arthur on with Ilya. So if you guys are keeping track of Arthur's posts, you know that his next favorite shitcoin after Hype and Zcash is Near. And we brought on Ilya to talk all about it, AI, confidential intents, and getting into Near tokenomics as well. So it was...
Yeah, Arthur said, what, 20x on Near, 5x on Zcash? I mean, come on.
That is what he said. That's what
if you guys have looked at that Zcash fractal, the Zcash Bitcoin 2015 fractal, it's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts.
I mean, the meme right now around Zcash is like, you buying Zcash at, $659 is like buying Bitcoin at $659. But the people seem to forget that people were trading multiple Bitcoin for one Zcash. So
they were.
If you're using, the old, I think it was on Poloniex, it was 7 Bitcoin for one Zcash. And so, it's almost like buying Zcash at $659 is like buying Bitcoin at $94 is the correct math.
Wow. That is some insane math from our fellow math major there.
I like to put on the mathematician hat every once in a while, especially when I'm addressing the total addressable market of the labor market, which we also talked about in the podcast. In case you guys weren't aware, it is $11.7 trillion. Ilya is claiming that the total addressable market of Near addresses the labor market as a whole. This is an $11 trillion market, and we're seeing AI take more and more market share of the labor market.
We are.
Obviously, Near is at the center of a lot of this, especially as a lot of these agents come on chain. They have an AI marketplace, and they are good friends of the show. And so it is a pleasure, as always, to host Ilya and the team, especially after seeing them in Bermuda, Miami. Looking forward to more AI conversations because it feels like
that one's going to come out
stopping
on Monday. Little Memorial Day drop. Today we have Simon Taylor, Fintech Brainfood for Stabled Up. We got Scott Shay of N3XT, a kind of digital native bank, and Wilson Cusack of Coinbase Base Head of Product. Should be a good show. Stabled Up first with Simon, then Scott, then Wilson. Looking forward to having that one. We're gonna get Simon up. We're gonna start talking about Tempo, Fintech. I mean, I had a representative from a tier 1 bank here in the office yesterday in New York, and they came in and they were so profoundly bullish, stablecoins, Fintech, payments, everything in that kind of vicinity. And in that vicinity, they were very curious about L1s, about chains, about DeFi, about how I was thinking about the industry. But it was very clear that they were coming at this from a perspective of, hey, like, we're investing a lot of capital into this space and we want to accelerate this space and we want to keep investing into it. And so, yeah, why don't we move into today's topics? We'll see what is happening from at a glance. Of course, shout out to our friends at Plume. Today's topics are powered by our friends at Trezor. Use code ROLLUP10 for a new Trezor. Like I said, we've got Wilson, we've got Simon, we've got Scott, we've got a ton of news. SpaceX IPO launched, Rob?
I think it's going to list at 1.75 trillion.
Wow.
The pre-market has it at around 2 trillion. I've got a buddy there who says that every quarter, as they've been preparing for this, more and more employees have been OTCing, which is actually, in an early stage, seed to Series A company, you don't want to see that. You want to see the team and the founders invested. But as the company grows into a size of one of the largest companies on the planet, this is ultimately healthy for capital formation. And so that is happening. And it's actually led to, because they've been able to, obviously companies are staying private for longer and longer.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons. And so the fact that they've done a lot of this capital formation in private markets with private rounds, they've done these OTC deals as new investors have come in, it's led to the outcome where they don't need to raise as much in this IPO. And I think
there is what, 75 billion?
I think it's only 75 billion. And that is helpful because it means that, there's not as much to dump on people's heads. Obviously, there's people that are going to be very, very wealthy as a result of this. It was also interesting to get a look into SpaceX's financials a little bit. They hold, I think it's 18,000 Bitcoin at around a $35,000 price point.
I remember that. You remember when Elon was buying Bitcoin? That was 2 cycles ago.
I remember.
I think.
I
right?
remember
or
when
no,
he
was
was
that
buying
2024?
Well, I think Tesla has some Bitcoin, and then SpaceX, I didn't realize also had some Bitcoin. But they've held it, and now it's publicly disclosed because they're as a result of their going public. The other thing that shocked people, there's a few things. One was that Anthropic pays them over $1 billion a month. That was pretty incredible. 1.25 billion. So there's, people are, because these companies aren't public yet, everyone is like, well, we're paying you, you're paying us. Where does the money actually sit?
And I think, Elon did that out of spite for OpenAI as well, right? Like, obviously he just lost that lawsuit. On Hyperliquid yesterday, when the earnings dropped, the SpaceX pre-IPO traded about 5% dip and then was quickly bought up. It's just, once again, very, 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 very cool that the most reliable form of price on chain is for pre-IPO stocks is a crypto venue. Like it is forcing these companies to pay attention to Hyperliquid. And so you got to be excited about that. Yeah. Rob, we got our first guest, Simon Taylor. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get our lovely animation set up, guys, and we're going to get live with Simon. We'll be right back with Simon Taylor, co-founder of Fintech, Brainfood, and a new addition to the Tempo team. We'll be right back, guys.
Welcome back to another episode of Stabled Up, our premier weekly show covering the ins and outs of digital dollars, stablecoins, and the future of decentralized finance.
The show is made possible by Frax, and Frax is powering the financial engine of the internet, powering FRX USD and Genius compliant stablecoins. This is the stablecoin super cycle made possible by Frax. Now enjoy Stabled Up, our weekly stablecoin show.
Welcome back to another episode of Stabled Up, our premier weekly show covering the ins and outs of digital dollars, stablecoins, and the future of decentralized finance.
The show is made possible by Frax, and Frax is powering the financial engine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stabled Up, episode number 33, our premier weekly stablecoin show powered by our friends over at Frax with their FRX USD product. Visit frax.finance to learn more. None other than Simon Taylor today. Big fans over here. You are the Fintech encyclopedia along with Chuck. I would call you guys the dictionary and the encyclopedia one by one. So good to have you on, man.
I appreciate you guys. You guys are crushing, going daily. I do not have the lungs for that. Big respect for the content you guys are pumping out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's a grind, but we love it. We do it for the love of the game. You have a great show as well. Obviously, give a shout out to Tokenized. We got introduced via our mutual friend Pet, and he said you guys have got to have Simon on. And so, Simon, man, you've been in the space a long time. Why don't you just give the people a quick a quick blurb as far as what led you to Tokenized, Tempo, and everything, and your focus now on stablecoins.
Yeah, I'm a recovering banker. So I did sort of 10, 15 years in banking. I did cards and payments. I worked in a bank doing like SEPA implementation and Fed wires and Swift and all of that kind of good stuff, getting this stuff into production. And so I saw the pain. I saw how hard it was. And then when Bitcoin kicked off, Ethereum kicked off back in 2013, 14, I was the guy walking around internally going, we should pay attention to this. And eventually, back at Barclays, I became head of crypto R&D back in 2015. And when you have that job at a bank, they roll you out in front of every regulator in the world to go explain what Bitcoin is. And it turns out my superpower is taking complex stuff and translating it. So now I call myself the TradFi translator. So in the past 15 years, I've been a consultant. We bootstrapped an advisory business on the back of launching Blockchain Insider and Fintech Insider. And then since then, I've kind of worked with a number of startups, most recently Tempo, but I run my newsletter Fintech Brainfood and the Tokenized podcast, which I co-host with Kai Sheffield from Visa. And as you know, when you have conversations like this every single day, it just makes you so much smarter about the industry. You get to interview the smartest people. And so sharing those learnings is a real passion. And I love it too. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, we have a very similar mindset. The thing that I love about doing the show so much is that we talk to people smarter than ourselves. We constantly upgrade our mental model and our thesis, and then we're just reiterating it back to the next person to check it once again, upgrade, and it feels like we're constantly learning, and we're able to share those learnings with everyone that watches along. I'm just curious on the tokenized side, and just as you're going, what has stuck out? Like, are there any moments from the Tokenized podcast that were just like massive light bulb moments and said, okay, this is a point where I'm going to shift my mental model because this is so, transcendental to the way that, this industry is shaping up?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Kai on some of these things. He said some of the big ones. The first one was like how Western Union and MoneyGram are the opposite of cooked because of stablecoins. I think that was an assumption for quite a while. And what he came up with was like, actually, stablecoins are a way for them to monetize the recipient of the payout. Like historically, they monetize the person sending the money. You would charge that person a fee, and then it gets to the last mile and it's cash. Whereas now with stablecoins, I can give that person at the last mile a mobile app, and I can give them a card attached to that mobile app. So now I'm making money from them. Maybe I can offer them a yield product. Maybe I can offer them tokenized equities. So this is like a really good thing for those businesses, and it solves a bunch of problems for them. So that was number one. And the other thing he says a lot is like, I want to ban bank holidays. Like, we should just kill them. Like, weekends and bank holidays just need to go away. And stablecoins don't, banks don't work bank holidays and weekends, but stablecoins do. They're instant, they're 24/7. Now, there's some nerdy drawbacks to that as well, like you don't get some collateral efficiency, you don't get to do netting and some of those things. But I think in a market that has hyperliquid doing SpaceX pre-IPO stock type of stuff, I wouldn't put it past the innovators in DeFi to like come up with some really cool stuff to solve those problems as well. And that's what's so fun for me is like I have this history and all of these relationships in TradFi and banking, and I see those folks now like really grappling with this stuff, especially after Genius, thinking, hey, maybe this isn't just a threat to me, maybe it's an opportunity. And I see the stablecoin industry going, hey, how can I learn from how TradFi always did things? So it's like the world has come and discovered my weird little obsession, and I'm stuck in the middle of it, and it's a beautiful place to be, seeing both sides of that.
Yeah, man. I mean, we often call this the convergence, neo finance. It's really just kind of this bringing together of both these worlds and really just kind of making it into one. I actually had a pretty large bank associate, kind of head of innovation with regards to fintech in the office here yesterday. We're in New York, and he was talking about how their specific bank is investing so much capital into fintech, neobanks, and into really this idea that stable coins and tokenized assets are going to end up being a large part of their balance sheet, of their usage, and of a lot of these products that they're funding. You know, Simon, when it comes to thinking about the thesis at large, right, you've been very directional on why you believe that crypto rails for fintech just makes sense. And I think there's the obvious kind of faster, cheaper, better settlement times, et cetera. But I'm curious kind of how your thesis has evolved since you've been working in, kind of in the juncture between these two industries as of late. Right. Obviously, with Tempo, there's a focus on private payments too. Kind of how is Simon Taylor's fintech meets stablecoins meets payments, kind of this trifecta? How has that thesis materially evolved over the last couple of years into where we are in the industry today, given the institutional adoption? Kind of walk us through what your core thesis and core idea is.
Yeah, I'd been playing with it for a while. I called stablecoins the rail above rails, probably about for 6 months. Before that, I was calling stablecoins like this alternative to the eurodollar. So, eurodollars are dollars that exist outside of US banks historically, but only other banks could hold them. The eurodollar for everybody else was my original thesis, which is, I'm in Argentina, I've got hyperinflation, and I just want to hedge that inflation risk. And I think people kind of get that now. It's kind of understood. But then this rail above rails is interesting because we have Fedwire, we have Visa, we have Pix, we have UPI. There are all of these like domestic rails, and then there's Swift, and they all sort of connect to each other, but not very well. But stablecoins are like, it was actually Henry at Privy described it this way. Stablecoins are like getting into orbit. Like it's really hard to on-ramp to orbit, but once you're there, you can move around really quickly. And that was another way of describing what I call this rail above rails, in that like once you're in stablecoins, then everything gets way lower friction, way easier, way more instant. But it's a lot harder to get there in the first instance until you've got like regular, until you've got SpaceX coming along and just making that super easy and super cheap. And I think that's what the process we're going through is now, is the old plumbing is all getting wired up to stablecoins. A bit like how the internet service providers and the ISPs all had to get wired up to the internet and upgrade their infrastructure. We're kind of going through that process now. But then once you're on stablecoins, it starts to look like the WhatsApp for money, right? So historically, you have all your ISPs, they'll sell you a data plan, but they also sold you a voice plan. Right now, you can just live off a data plan. I can call anybody anywhere using WhatsApp, and I can send them any message, and it's global, and it's instant, and it doesn't cost anything. And I think that's where we're going with money as well. So Starlink for money and WhatsApp for money are like my big thesis. And far from stablecoins competing with cards, far from stablecoins competing with Swift, I think they just slot in and become this thing that sits above them. None of those old things go away. The ISPs are all still there. Like they're still doing their thing, but maybe they just didn't take the opportunity that was presented. So stablecoins become this like platform, that you can build new products upon, and that's a big trend that I think is going to be one that fintechs start to lean into. I look at what Ramp's done with its global accounts and Stripe and others.
We joked for a while in our little crypto bubble that Ethereum and Coinbase were L2s on a stable coin L1, but it also seems as if Visa, MasterCard, Rain, all of these businesses are ultimately building on the platform of stablecoins as well. And so they really are, like you're saying, they're this underlying infrastructure, but they're also this rail of rails, this rail for rails, which is very incredible to think about the scale of stablecoins. I think everyone at this point would almost certainly agree it's a stablecoin super cycle. There's an AI super cycle, tokenization super cycle is in the air as well. But stablecoins are really proliferating. Who do you think? And I'll just preempt my question by saying you'll probably say Tempo, given your affiliation. But who do you think is in position to benefit the most from the stablecoin super cycle as we continue to see this play out?
Well, I think anybody who has distribution, right? Like that's one of the most interesting characteristics. Can the incumbent get innovation before the innovator gets distribution? And that's the difficult thing here. And so who has distribution? The remittance companies. Who has distribution? Yes, obviously a company like Stripe. Who has distribution? There's a lot of banks do. But the banks have an interesting challenge in that for them, stablecoins are actually very expensive to hold directly on their balance sheet. So they do look at first glance a little bit like a threat, but stablecoins used only at the weekends for banks, or maybe I'm not one of the GSIBs, I'm one of the smaller banks, then maybe it's better than correspondent banking even for me as a bank that does correspondent banking. At Tempo, we've announced Coastal Community Bank is going live doing stablecoin settlement between them and another bank in another country. And so that I think is like this narrative violation of like, actually there's all of this money to be made as a bank by leaning into stablecoins as another payments rail, another product, being a really great off-ramp. So anybody who's got distribution and anybody I think willing to do the hard yards of like understanding your risk appetite, understanding who your vendors are, how do I wire all of this stuff together, how do I make it safe, how do I comply with regulation, like that stuff's not easy, but there are people figuring that out. So I think you need the mixture of those two things. But it's kind of like who wins is a little bit like who gets to play to their strengths. So I always think about it like a personal trainer. Like my answer for you might be different than it is for somebody else, depending on where they're starting at. Like if I'm a founder or an entrepreneur, I'm going to say, right, you can go global instantly, like Cast did, like Altitude did, like Dakota has done. They just play into the fact that they can quickly go global and they can do like a Mercury ramp type of play. But if I'm Mercury or ramp, I can use stablecoins just the same way to go globally and solve a bunch of problems. So it's like, what's your strength? I don't know that anybody is immediately advantaged or disadvantaged. Other than those, I think the most dangerous position to take is, I'm just going to sit back and lobby against this. I'm going to assume it's nothing but a threat and I can compete. And I think the smart ones and even some of the loudest ones are not actually only doing that. They might be saying things in public, but behind the scenes, working really, really hard to understand their opportunity, especially where there's client demand to do so. And so the Genius Act was just such a watershed moment for people starting to understand that there's revenue here, that there's opportunity. And if you're one of the biggest banks in the world, you have to take time to figure it out. Otherwise, the costs of failure are just too high. But you'll get there and you'll do a great job. If you're smaller, then your advantage is speed.
Yeah. And you mentioned Mercury. They just raised $200 million at a $5.2 billion valuation, 4 years profitable. I think like $650 million of revenue. It looks like conditional OCC charter coming. From the Mercury, from the ramp perspective, I'm curious kind of for their neobank play. How does that differ from some of these smaller, kind of more upstart neobanks, right? Like it seems like there's this cohort, Ramp, Erebor, Mercury, that are really starting to be kind of like a real threat and challenger to actual banks. But I'm just curious, like this embedded finance take and approach, what do you see as like the strategic angles of gaining market share over the next year? What are the pivots? What are the forks in the road that's, the Ramps and Mercuries and Erebors will have to take as it pertains to kind of stable coins, agentic finance, that you think will be decision makers in the future for their own success or for their, kind of lack or gaining of market share?
I think the answer varies depending on each of them, right? Like for Erebor, like one could argue they're the Bank of American dynamism. So if you were previously fearing being deplatformed, you wanted like a bank with just really great tech and really great APIs, then something like an Erebor solves the problem for you and you can go to them. And they've attracted something like $1 billion of deposits in 7 days. That tells you, I think there was some demand, certainly from some parts of the tech community for exactly that product. Mercury came up a different way, right? Mercury is unapologetically a bank where the center of gravity is the account. This is your operating account. It's where you pay invoices from. You start as a founder on Mercury and you grow with them, and then maybe you take debt products from them and a card and spend management and all that stuff later. And they've had two really big jumps of growth. One was when SVB and Silvergate and Signature and FRB were all collapsing. They just saw a spike in account openings. You know who else saw a spike in account openings? JP Morgan. So being in the right place at the right time, I think really, really helped them with a product and a distribution strategy. The second spike in their growth now is really, can they, as more companies are created, from vibe coding, from AI, the App Store is seeing more apps created after a long-term plateauing. Stripe says Stripe Atlas is seeing more new companies formed than any time in their history, and it's accelerating. Mercury is one of the first places you go when you're opening your first bank account. It's a place you put your first, VC check. It goes into the Mercury account quite often. And when you're bigger, you get a few more banks and whatever else. So for stablecoins, for them, it's like, well, a lot of these companies want to accept stablecoins. They want to pay their staff in stablecoins. They want to move them internationally. So that's just like a thing they should add, and they absolutely will. For Ramp, it's a little bit different. Like, look where they started. They started with the best spend management card in the world. And it's like, how can I save you as a company as much money as possible? And how can I make it so that you have as few clicks as possible? Like, they are aggressively focused on how can I save you a millisecond of time? Can I make that page load a little bit faster? And so if I'm a company, if I'm a CFO today and I'm logging into Coinbase to manage my stable coins and I'm logging into Ramp to manage my fiat, well, that just sucks. Like, why don't we just put this all in one place and the CFO gets to see a single dashboard? But also, then they see that as territory expansion, right? Because there are parts of the world like Nigeria and the global south more broadly, where getting access to things like Netflix and ChatGPT isn't as simple as just using your credit or debit card, because there isn't a local Ramp or a local Mercury. But if you open a stablecoin backed account in those markets, then they can open that for you and they can assign a card to it, and presto, they've got a new customer. So each of them, I think, is thinking about it in slightly different ways. And this won't be one size fits all. I think there's actually a lot of complexity here where every fintech, every neobank, every upstart, every incumbent is going to have a slightly different answer.
Yeah. And then Simon, I mean, to flip that on its head, then even like that's kind of like the big behemoth neobank. And then you've got Tempo, you've got Arc, you've got Plasma, you've got these like underlying like blockchain settlement layers, which ultimately will be competing for that flow, right? Like these banks and their customers are going to likely choose one, perhaps offer of a couple at the end of the day, customer just wants to move that money. They don't want to really think about or care about what chain they're on. But those blockchains and those banks, they really need to make sure that things are all, tight, squared away, done up, and also win those relationships. And so one of the things that Tempo has prioritized is this kind of MPP, this machine payments protocol, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. You got it right.
And in addition to that, privacy. And so these two things feel very, very complementary and also futuristic and kind of forward-looking. Within the Tempo stack, Simon, I'm curious, what makes Tempo one of the best places for stablecoin payments at large? And kind of how does the technology end up leading to winning some of these relationships and to building out a very vast network, right? Because with these things, the network effect really hits big. Tron has been dominating tether payments simply because it has been dominating tether payments for so long that you just use Tron. With Tempo, how do you see the technology side leading to winning some of these commercial relationships, distribution through Stripe? How does it all kind of come together?
I think actually it's thousands of little things. Like if you think about a really great product, it's very rarely just one thing that makes it great. I don't know what your favorite brand is or sports car or whatever it is, but when you have something of high quality, it's the thousands of tiny details that really add up and really matter. And to payments professionals, there's just hundreds of paper cuts in using the existing blockchain infrastructure out there. Surprisingly simple one, gas. Gas is volatile. Gas fees can spike. So being able to pay that in stablecoins and have fee consistency is extremely valuable. And it's not surprising that there are now a class of blockchains doing exactly that feature. But I also think there's a lot of other things as well. Being able to pay fees in any stablecoin or tokenized deposit. So there's a lot of, especially financial institutions, that don't want too much exposure to a stablecoin for precisely the reasons I said about balance sheet risk earlier. So being able to pay fees in their own tokenized deposit is like an amazing thing. Other small things that you have to do as a CFO, as a payments business, is you have to take all of those stablecoin payments and match them to all of your fiat payments. That's really hard to do. And no blockchain has tools for that. So we just made it really easy to add memo fields and to make all of your referencing work. And I could sit here for hours going through every tiny feature. And honestly, it really depends on who you are and what you want to achieve. And there's probably a top 3 or 4 features that I would give to you. Like if you're a large bank, I might lean into how we're doing privacy zones and how that can give you like your own version of tokenized deposits that's closed loop. But actually on Tempo, it could go open loop and you could swap that for stablecoins really easily. And we've put a lot of detail into how all of that works. I think generally as well, from the Stripe heritage, from my heritage, there's a lot of people at Tempo not from Stripe. I'd say 90% are either Paradigm heritage or from Fintech or from crypto, but have done payments. We're payments nerds. We've been there. Yep. We've had to deal with the fact that reconciliation is a real nightmare. And we've had to deal with the fact that ISO messages are really painful and every bank uses them slightly differently. And it's these things that like, what's the, if you know, you know. There's thousands of those where people look at Tempo and also, honestly, when I'm with a prospect or when I'm with a client, I get this sort of moment where everyone has this like, oh, finally somebody did it. Native account abstraction. Like most people today going to, a Privy or to a Bridge or to a BVNK or to any of those players, they don't have to think about account abstraction because, somebody else is taking care of it. But if I'm going to start moving enough volume on chain, maybe I want to go directly to the chain myself. Maybe I want to run my own RPC node. Maybe I want to run a validator. Well, then suddenly that matters a whole lot more, that the chain can do more out of the box. And so, again, I don't know which one. It's like, what's my favorite child? What's my favorite movie? I like the industry. I like all of them.
It's fascinating. Simon, you mentioned earlier, and I know we've only got a couple minutes left here, but one of the things that's holding back these larger banks, those who can really move significant volume, is the idea that stablecoins are very expensive to hold on the balance sheet of banks. how do we overcome this? Is this what you think is the biggest blocker to ultimately making stablecoins ubiquitous in the payment space? Is there another bigger blocker? How do we ultimately overcome and really scale to the point where I think everyone understands this is inevitable, but fighting the good fight, how do we get there?
So I think we just have to realize that tokenized deposits and stablecoins solve different problems for different people, and they're both valid. So tokenized deposits are money that stays still and can only exist inside of the bank. Stablecoins are money that moves. It's open loop. It can go to anybody with compatible software instantly and 24/7. What stablecoins can't do is offer the same kind of yield that banks do. It also, if you park $50 million at a large bank, guess what? Your lending rates are going to get a lot better. Your FX rates are going to get a lot better. And so there's a whole bunch of advantages to deposits and tokenized deposits that I think we just don't recognize sometimes. Meanwhile, stablecoins, they can go open loop. They can go anywhere instantly and 24/7. So I think what we have to do is make the business case for why these two things coexist and why that's beneficial to the financial institutions. And that's where I spend a lot of my time, which is like, hey, there's new fee revenue here over the weekend. I don't know if you've noticed, but at weekends, there's quite a lot of geopolitical and price volatility at the moment. I'm sure your clients are screaming about doing something about it. Wouldn't it be great if you just had this small pocket of time in which you let them settle with stablecoins, but the rest of the time it swapped back into tokenized deposits so you didn't bleed out too much balance sheet risk. Oh, and by the way, since you do that, that's a new service. You can probably charge quite a good fee for that if the clients really want you to do it. So this is actually, instead of losing money from trading deposits, you're going to be net making money. And so I think we have to frame things in those terms so that we can start to make sense of it. And so that's where maybe not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I'm going to release like the business case for stable coins for banks on fintechbrainfood.com. And it's something really top of mind for me, because I think it's something that's not done enough. And not done in a way that a banker would write it. Often when we talk about stablecoins being cheaper or better than deposits, that's immediately the banks are going to dismiss that because it's obviously not true. And the second thing we can claim is that you should just do it and you should compete on yield and something of that nature. You've got to make the case in their terms, and they're going to say, you haven't even mentioned SOC 60 or the liquidity coverage ratio, or how am I going to take this to ALCO? All of these jargon terms that to a bank is like, how do I make money and how do I make this comply? And that's the stuff that I think the industry is now starting to wrestle with, and which is why I love my job. Can you tell I'm a nerd? I love this stuff.
Man, for everyone listening, guys, go to fintechbrainfood.com. I'm a huge fan, reader of your LinkedIn, your X, your newsletter, pod. So Simon, thanks for spending some time with us. Go get your kids, go educate them on finance. I'm sure they've already got an account on Tempo. If not, they soon will. I would highly recommend it.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been fun. Take care.
Thanks, Simon.
Absolutely.
Cheers,
See you
man.
next time. Thanks, Simon.
Man, Fintech Brainfood, Simon. Great to have him, guys. We're going to take a quick break. We've got our next guest here in the studio, Scott Shay. We're going to get started. Actually, kind of like piggybacking off of that conversation. More kind of debanking, neobanking, and more. Guys, we'll be right back.
Money, power, and money, power, and
We get deep, you know we get deep. You know we get deeper. We get deep, you know we get deep. We get deep. We get deep. We get deeper.
and the Davos of Web3.
See you next year!
2nd and 3rd of June at the Louvre Palace in Paris.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Stabled Up episode number 34, powered by our friends at Frax. We've got Scott Shay talking neobanks, debanking, stable coins. Scott, welcome to the tokenization tower. Great to have you here. It's a nice view. It's a nice day.
It is a great place and a great day.
Yes, sir, it is. Well, man, we got a lot to talk about. There is this rise of crypto native neobanking happening. You've got quite the background from some of the larger banks. You've been through some of this debanking, some of this Operation Choke Point happening. Scott, maybe just give us a quick tidbit into your background, what you've been working on for the last 20 or so years, and then we'll get into the conversation.
So I'm a founder of 4 banks now. Bank United of Texas, Merrick Bank, which some of your folks may know because it was an original payment bank, credit card bank. Then I was the founder of Signature Bank, and most notably, my claim to fame is I created Signet. And then right now I'm starting the bank I'm really most proud of, which is actually not a neobank. It's not a fractional bank. It's something that is new under the sun. It is a 100% full reserve bank, which I think is finally a bank that has a real bank that has the ethos of crypto. And I'm really excited about it. You know, we put our core operating system on a blockchain. We're really the only we're the only native crypto bank out there. I mean, I go to a lot of conferences. I see you at like 110% of the conferences I attend, and Robbie, of course, too. And we're the only ones, literally, that transfer a real dollar.
Yeah. And people wonder, like we just had Simon Taylor on from Fintech, Brainfood, and tokenized Tempo. Yeah. And we were talking about the difference between tokenized deposits and stablecoins, and kind of what that, how actual banks refer to these things and think about them and treat them. Maybe you could just elucidate a bit about the core differences here and how traditional banks are thinking about tokenized deposits versus stablecoins within the lens of customer experience, profitability, moats. There's a lot of kind of conversations about stablecoins with clarity now. What is the difference between tokenized deposit, stablecoin, and what is the bank's approach to these things?
So obviously, as you can now tell, I'm a bank nerd. So I'm gonna unpack a little bit of what you said. So first of all, they're really, when we talk about tokenized deposits versus stablecoins, a stablecoin is essentially a receipt for $1. It's saying, I put the dollar in that box over there. Here's my receipt for $1. You've got it. You transfer it. You transfer it. You're on a crypto rail. So you have to go on to a crypto rail. You have to go get that dollar, somehow get that dollar off a crypto rail. And having created Signet, I can tell you one thing: whenever you go on and off rails, and we see that obviously with bridges, which are really, have inherent risks. Yeah. My view is that, like what most banks have done with tokenized deposits, actually including Signature, because we knew what we were doing when we were doing it, is like it's stapling. Signet was like stapling crypto on. It was like stapling paper onto cardboard. Yeah. The two systems are not fundamentally compatible. I mean, if you look at the banking systems that work right now, they're actually, I don't care which one you're using, you need to be embarrassed. I mean, they take this building we're sitting in, I mean, famously took 1 year and 45 days to complete. Yeah. And it's a real building. And it's like, you have a great view, and like there are gazillions of people in there. For a big bank and for the operating systems of the FISs, the Fiservs, the Jack Henrys, it takes more than a year for them to make a significant change. Whereas by what we did, which is building in a blockchain, we're compatible, we're native. So when crypto developers look at how to integrate with us, it's like, hey, wow. It's like not all of the contortions and, I mean, if you have a developing background, it's not all the stuff you have to do to staple cardboard and paper together and hope that they work and know that there's risk. So we've, I think, and this was our goal with my co-founders, Jeff Wallace, Aurel Bonnell, and Kyle O'Donnell, was to actually create the first native bank. Now, there's one more part, and I don't want to get to a monologue here, but there's one more critical part. When you use a tokenized deposit from a regular bank, you actually are not transferring $1. And that's what people don't wanna. It's like cognitive dissonance. What you're transferring is a promise to pay, because the deposit is insured up to $250,000. Maybe the FDIC and the Fed will, make good. Maybe they won't. But you're not actually transferring $1. Where Satoshi's fundamental, and this is what got me. I started on my crypto journey in 2013. What got me was when you trade a block of Bitcoin, you are trading the actual crypto. You're trading the actual, currency. Right. When you're trading a block of Ethereum, you're trading an actual amount of Ethereum. Right. You're not doing that when you transfer $1. So what we did is by putting all of the money in the bank, but not investing a penny. So there's nobody like, Signature Bank had is public knowledge. We were a lender on the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
So if everybody wanted all of their money, we'd actually have to go to, the owner of the REIT that owns this building and say, Tony, please give us the money back.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually exist. What we've done is we put all the money in a T+0 environment. So on any business day, we can get all of it. We don't take interest rate risk. We don't take credit risk. And so when someone moves a block of dollars on our block, they're actually moving a physical unit of USD because we are a bank.
Yep.
We're not a receipt for a bank or a receipt for a custodian.
Yep.
And it's subtle. It is really something new under the sun. It's subtle, but fundamentally puts us in a whole different category and takes us out of TradFi.
Yep.
I mean, you've been going to all these conferences and everybody wants to sing Kumbaya, about TradFi and crypto, right? I mean, we're all, it's like, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Scott, I'm curious, what were some of the learnings from the, I want to get more into NDD and to N3XT.
I'm super excited.
But what were some of the learnings from Signet, from the entire Signature Bank kind of process? Like when the on and off ramp, choke points were happening and people were being debanked. What was happening? Like what was happening in your mind? What like lessons did you learn? What did this trigger as far as you kind of coming to build a fully reserve bank? Like, man, what the hell happened?
Wow. Well, I assume this is a family show, so I'm not going to take off my shirt and show you some scars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you.
I mean, look, Signature was debanked. It was wrong and unnecessary. And I testified before the House and the Senate, should open the next day. But as some of your listeners may vaguely recall, there was a time that the administration in power at the time didn't like crypto.
Right.
And they didn't like crypto-friendly banks. And this is wrapped up in a bigger, actually, if we had like hours, we could talk about this, but the regulators have, because we live in a fractional banking world, the regulators have enormous power over the banks because they control the insurance. The minute the regulator says you're not insured, you're done. Or the minute that you want to exercise having your collateral and the regulator or the bank and the lender of last resort doesn't say that they're going to lend against you, you're kaput. And by definition, you're always, as a fractional bank, because, 5 people put in $10 and they all think they have $10, but in reality, $40 was lent to the Empire State Building REIT, right? Or other people like that.
Yeah.
I'm generalizing, obviously, but it's been lent out. So by definition, fractional banks are creatures of the government.
Yeah.
So the one thing that was really fundamental that I wanted to be part of was saying, no, we want a bank that's more robust, where we never need a lender of last resort. If everybody wants to take all their money out on any day, we can do something that not even JP Morgan can do. We can just give them the money.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, JP Morgan will be bailed out. They're too important. They have 35% of the market share of the the United States, and they're, where it's JP Morgan's world, we just live in it. But we have that special superpower of all the money's always there. You transfer $1 when you transfer, a Bitcoin, or if you just want to transfer, if I just want to pay you, forget about cryptocurrencies. Personally, my vision is much bigger. I mean, that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I really believe that we need to retire and say thank you to the 20th century, almost 19th century business rails of banking. We're a quarter of the way into the century, actually more.
Yeah.
What are we still using 1980s programming for in banking?
Yeah. Well, then, so the core reasoning for the fractional reserve is this ability to lend, it's this ability to then generate yield off the customer deposits and make money. In a fully reserved bank, there's got to be a creative way to generate revenue. How does that work?
So, excellent question. Investors and others always ask, well, okay, that's great. How are you going to make money?
Sure.
And we have just like some fantastic investors who saw the vision, Farsalus paradigm, hack, names you know, and they got it. The way we make money is threefold. So first, we do make some money from float, even though we only invest in T+0 direct U.S. government obligations, no repo, no nothing else, month duration. We still make some money from that. Number two, we're going to, starting in 2028, we're going to start charging monthly account fees. We're only business to business. So we're going to charge monthly. Businesses are used to paying monthly account fees, and no one's actually, we're going to charge relatively low compared to the big banks, much lower. The third, and this is where we're doing shipping and logistics, is if I ship you something, if I ship you, $10,000 worth of those water bottles, one of us is taking risk. Either I send it to you and hope, hey, you're usually pretty good for it, I'll send you a bill, or I say you got to pay me first because these are such, these are in such a amount, or more likely, if it's a bigger amount of money, you get a letter of credit. So letters of credit are very expensive. And what really we found at Signet was, and this really blew my mind, and it's why I was so excited about continuing the 24/7 payment delivery, is by the end of Signet, by 2022, before it was shut down and the money was sent back by the government, 50% of the transactions were not crypto, but were shipping and logistics related, and they were for much lower amounts. So so people who wanted to do, so a typical transaction in that arena would be 17,000, 100,000. The crypto transactions would be $1 million, they'd be aggregated $1 million, $2 million, $10 million. We even had 100 million. But here, if I ship something to you, I can essentially create a self-serve, what we've created, and the engineering team is just remarkable. It's a self-service letter of credit, if you will. It's a programmable payment, which people in the crypto world are used to. It says, I've shipped you those bottles, check. You say, I got the bottles, check. Robbie, who's not here, says, I went in, this is what we ordered, and the bottles look like they're fine, check. Once though we've agreed on that, those are the three things that need to happen. The money and the money and the letter of bill of lading, the certificate of authenticity, if it's pharmaceutical, if it's whatever, there's a whole bunch of certificates. I'm summarizing, obviously, but all the documentation required and the money changed in. It doesn't matter whether it's 3M in Detroit, Dublin, Dakar, Dubai. You don't have to wait for the bank to be open. You don't have to have lawyers. Now, look, 20% of the transactions are going to require, they're complicated, they're big, you're going to want a lawyer involved, but for 80% of the transactions or some number like that, we're going to charge you 10%, and we still make money. That's how big and fat the margins are in banking.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have launched this NDD product as of April.
Yeah, really
with a couple other products. What is this? What is the NDD product? Like, what is that, and how does it relate to the bigger vision?
So, NDD is part and parcel of the bigger vision.
Yeah.
Which is what NDD does. Next Digital Dollar is actually, if you want, you don't have to. You can have a regular bank account like what I just described. It's all under secret. Nobody knows from you. It's under the Bank Secrecy Act. But there are many players, companies that are thinking, Actually, we want to show that we've paid somebody and have it be public. So between clients of the bank, customers of the bank, we've put NDD on the Ethereum blockchain, which is obviously the most used blockchain. Maybe it'll be on others in the future. You just talked to, as you said, to Tempo and others. Yeah. But in the meantime, we started with Ethereum. It made most sense. And now you can see that I paid you. That's really important in the universe of suppliers, in that First Brands, which is the famous, bankruptcy where people thought others were getting paid. If I said, you know what, I'm the factor, I'm the finance agent, I'm the private lender, I want to actually see your payments public. I'm not going to be able to touch them, right? They can't touch them, but I can observe that you're actually making payments. That is enormous for protecting credit. I mean, that's, thankfully that's where I, personally I do, and other people in the group really have the understanding of banking, because that solves a central problem of private credit lenders.
Interesting. But that's actually opposite of what we've been hearing, which is that privacy is crucial for this next era of payments, of institutions using crypto, of the average person wanting to use stablecoins for payments. How do you balance this desire for privacy with this, B2B public need to show like, hey, I'm good for it? How do those two go hand in hand when I think a lot of these, businesses and enterprises want to keep their finances private? Why make it public? Is it just solely for this credit reason? How do you balance the desire for privacy here?
So first of all, totally agree. Many people, I don't know, we don't know yet, most, probably, I guess most are going to want their transactions kept private. They're not people, they're companies. Most companies will want their transactions private. But let's say you're literally a borrower in the private credit markets, and you've got five different creditors. They don't have visibility to the other credits that you've extended. So it's always been a problem in banking, in that if I'm borrowing from five different people, you could be playing three-card Monte with the collateral. This protects you against it. I'm not saying everybody's going to want it.
Yeah.
But boy, for those people who do want it, they're going to say a prayer of thanksgiving that they used it. And the other people that may want it, and I think this is going to be a use case, are some exchanges that want to say, okay, here's the clearing. The dollars are flowing. We want that all on the network so that everybody can see the finality and it's almost like a ticker.
Yeah.
And there could be ways in the future to semi-anonymize that. So it's, it's just exchange to closing agent or to custodian. So it's not like I'm saying, I know you bought X shares of SpaceX or whatever today's, hot story is. But it could say somebody did on this exchange, it closed, that's yours. The other guy knows that was his.
Right.
That's again a real serious use case that we're solving. So we're not just trying to throw things at the wall. We're actually, I think, solving real necessary cases.
So I noticed that you guys were doing some work in Wyoming as well as part of like the jurisdictional kind of like landscape. They've been very forward with this digital dollar, the Wyoming stable token. I think is what it's called. And they've been very kind of like the first state to embrace a stable token for a state and for like a local state level government. What is the relationship with Wyoming for NDD and for kind of the collateral and legal side? What are you guys doing in Wyoming?
So we're just chartered there, and we're supervised. They did start their own stablecoin, and more power to them, but that really doesn't have anything to do with us. The idea is that if you're a citizen of Wyoming, that instead of using cash, if you want to use a stablecoin, that that the reserves are going toward parks and they're going to state government. Wyoming is famously a low tax state, a no income tax state. So they are very keen on finding ways to get revenues, and more power to them. I'm happy for them. You know, I'm happy for the state of Wyoming. We're a taxpayer, you know, so I'm happy that they've, want to figure out other ways to also raise money.
Right. Okay, so kind of, chartered there, it's friendly. Yeah. When it comes to actually people using this NDD, this kind of new form of a bank, what is the appeal to someone like myself, someone in the younger generation? Why should I care to put my money into this? What is the benefit to Wells Fargo or to JP Morgan, Chase, or whatever it is?
Well, first of all, you aren't our target market personally. Yeah. Your company could be. Okay. So when we talk, we're B2B only. Yeah. And you may want to use this because you can minimize your working capital. If you get paid on the weekend for those proverbial bottles, you can reuse that you can use that immediately. Yep. You don't have to wait for the wire transfers. You don't have to pay for a wire transfer. You don't have to pay for SWIFT. So if those bottles are being shipped from Manila, or they're being shipped from Manila to Perth to here, you don't have to worry about the time zones or the different bank, have a bank there, a bank here. You can just make that payment atomically. So for your business, I mean, you're not in the water bottle business, you're not your local business here, but for many businesses, wow, we can offer you a lot of service that'll lower your costs and fees and simplify your business and mean that and make you have less working capital. I would say, in terms of the big banks, to be perfectly honest, I think we're a competitor to big banks. Yeah. I mean, we set ourselves up so that we keep all the money in just short-term U.S. Treasuries. So we have the quality of a GSIB in that we have no credit risk, but we have the immediate transfer, the flexibility of having a blockchain as a core system. Yep. We're bank supervised. We have a supervisor. We were fully examined before we opened.
And you're doing daily transparency checks as well?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
We're gonna start posting those actually on our transparency page.
Yeah. So kind of as we kind of slowly come to a close here, when it comes to integrating the importance of the crypto rails to this, could you just kind of reaffirm why this is only possible using Ethereum, using a blockchain? What makes this so much different and more unique than a typical banking setup that is enabled by using the on-chain tools at hand?
So most banks, and again, Signet, and we were working on other stuff too. I would say they may have a cool 24/7 system that shows you got paid and the other person, you paid and the other person got paid. But in reality, to a great degree, they're debits and credits. They're actually not the movement of the money, because even the biggest banks really run their batch twice a day. And there's still, I wasn't totally kidding about 1980s technology. Yeah. I mean, there are big banks which have, sort of holidays on changes for 2 months because they're just integrating what they've integrated over the last year, or what they've started over the last year. It is fundamentally, you can make it look like it works. Again, it's like stapling paper to cardboard. But it fundamentally doesn't work, because fundamentally, what everybody's talking about is bringing TradFi and crypto together, but they just don't work together. It's like trying to put, VHS and Betamax together. They're incompatible. You can run them on the same system, and it's got a third system. It has to have a third system that records from one, transfers to the other. It is a workaround. And what I'm so excited about, and I hope people are talking about and writing about in 10 years, I really, really mean this, is that we really revolutionized the banking system. We brought crypto to the banking system, not some ersatz, put together.
Scott, just coming to a close. I mean, what is the roadmap here for you? What are you most focused on throughout this year into next? You mentioned by 2028, there will be more revenue generating features and products. How does the next 6 to 12 months look like for you guys to really capitalize here?
Well, we're clearly looking at how to make NDD more powerful. And like everyone, but I think we're doing it, I hope, in a great way that we'll hopefully have some announcements coming out at some point. We're looking at AI. One thing that was nice about starting the bank when we did in 2023, 2024, 2025, when we were doing all the building, was we knew AI is here. It was no longer like something, where you could put it aside. We know AI is here. I do think adoption to finance is going to be slower than everybody thinks. Part of that is due to the tools involved, and part of it, frankly, is due to the risks involved in AI. And I think you even talked about AMMs. I'm watching those obviously closely, but even the folks that essentially have AMMs like Renaissance and others that had AMMs before they were really called AMMs. Yeah. There's a human being watching them, because you're never going to want to say, hey, dear shareholders, all the money's gone because our, AMM went wild and we didn't check it until Monday morning, or it transferred out faster than someone could push a button from all the money from our accounts. I think there's no question it's going to happen. There's no question. The very first thing I did, if you've got one more moment, started out, my first job was at Salomon. My first real job was at Salomon Brothers. And I did the training class that Michael Lewis so famously depicted. So one of the things that I did was I rotated through the market-making areas on the OTC desk when there were phones and people would call. And the trader, who had a good sense of humor, at my first day said, I'm going for lunch, you take the position for an hour. And in addition to being scared to death, I was like, just got my empty hand. I'm like, there's a real position here for Salomon Brothers. And I got back, I think I lost like $2,000 in the hour. And he was, oh, that's great. No problem. He was like, when he enjoyed it, it was like worth it to him. But, I didn't know what I was doing. I was happy it was only that. But ultimately, there was somebody there who would have pushed the button and I made it. And I started really using his position. Somebody would have stopped me. Yeah. And someone's got to do that when you're talking about, the repo market. I'm sorry, is it the repo market is about a $13 trillion a day trading market? Yeah. Yeah, someone's going to watch that. Yeah. It's not going to happen so fast. Yeah.
And so you think that kind of framework applies to how the banking industry is going to evolve?
Yes.
Just this different removals of checks and balances, implementing programmable kind of immutable technology, but then watching it, and then same thing, and just kind of evolving through that process.
I think so, and I think we're part of that revolution. I can't be more excited.
Scott, thanks for the time, man. Thanks for coming to the studio. That is Scott Shay, Stabled Up, episode number 34, guys, live from the Tokenization Tower. We'll be right back with our next guest. Stay tuned.
the Davos of Web3.
See you next year!
2nd and 3rd of June at the Louvre Palace in Paris. Davos of Web3.
See you next year!
2nd and 3rd of June at the Louvre Palace in Paris.
Wow. Send everything.
Send everything.
Zcash is ready for 700, you boys and girls. You heard it here first.
You know
Rob, what happened? I don't know. I was just talking to Scott about stablecoins.
I had to jump back on and let you know the war's over. We're not going to get drafted. Trump brokered peace in the Middle East. We've attained world peace.
What does that mean for my Zcash and hype and near bags?
I think it means everything's going to send.
Okay.
I don't know. That's not financial advice. I think the S&P is going to get to 7,500 before near gets to 7,500, but I think Zcash gets to 7,500, but I think Zcash is going to get to 10,000 before the S&P gets to 10,000.
Wow. So this is amazing news for the state of humanity, for everyone involved, for everything, man. I mean, this was
for you and I and love on earth.
This was just like such an annoying just 6 months for everybody, and everyone hates Trump more now. I mean, to be honest, but the war's over, so that means that there's less. Hopefully, oil will take a chill pill. Is that logical?
Gas ought to come. Yeah, oil's sliding down. Stocks are pumping. You'd imagine gas and jet fuel and flights are going to come down as well. You'd also think that. We've got the new Fed chair coming in. Inflation was starting to run a little bit hot, right? We looked at CPI and PPI last week, I think. And you'd imagine, let's go ahead and look at a little bit more of the detail around this deal. But yeah,
here we go.
It does seem as if this is going to be healthy for things overall.
So what do we have here?
So obviously an immediate comprehensive and unconditional ceasefire on all fronts, land, sea, and air. So we're going to stop fighting. That's nice. Mutual commitment not to target military, civilian, or economic infrastructure. Not sure what that means. If we have an immediate and comprehensive and unconditional ceasefire, doesn't that also include infrastructure by default? Guess that's called out in particular. Cessation of military so we're going to cease military operations. Again, that seems to go without saying, and as part of a ceasefire. Respect for sovereignty. We are codifying respect. We're both going to sign on the dotted line. Territorial integrity and non-interference in internal affairs. Guaranteed freedom of navigation in the Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, and Sea of Oman. Establishment. So obviously that's a big one. Guaranteed freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz.
That's huge for oil.
I saw that there was going to be some sort of joint monitoring system. Guaranteed freedom makes me think that it's like unfettered freedom. But if they're monitoring, then they're monitoring for something. I think there's going to be more details that come out of that. Here we go. Establishment of a joint monitoring and dispute resolution mechanism. Launch of negotiations on outstanding issues within 7 days. What does that mean? Gradual lifting of U.S. sanctions in exchange for Iran's adherence to the terms. Affirmation of compliance with international law. You know what's missing from this list, Andy?
What's that?
Uranium.
Yeah.
Uranium. The lack of uranium enrichment and the path towards a nuclear weapon for Iran.
Yeah, I didn't see anything. Wasn't that the biggest issue as well? Was like the Iran nuclear power?
Obviously the Strait of Hormuz, then captured everyone's attention. But yeah, Iran nuclear threat was the biggest, most contentious point as to why we were there to begin with. Not mentioned in this peace deal.
Wow.
So my initial impression here is that Trump bent the knee. Unless there's news that comes out saying, Iran won't be going after uranium enrichment and looking for a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, this is good news for a Thursday before Memorial Day weekend in America. I think people will be a bit more relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah, good for the vibes. Why don't we get back on track here and shift off of the geopolitical news, get into something that's a bit more topical.
Yeah. So, I mean, dude.
Take us away, Andy.
I mean, these ETFs are non-frickin' stop. THYP, BHYP, 50% jump in volume again today, headed for combined 40 million in trading yesterday. Perfectly timed launch. Everything's in the gutter. Hype's flying. New all-time highs today. Just in time. The big boys show up just in time to push us over all-time highs. Gotta love it. You gotta love when they launch the ETFs right as we need a little bit of a bigger push to get over the line. We made the push. The most in-demand ETF since the launch of the Bitcoin ETF. These numbers are astoundingly large, and it's extremely, extremely impressive for the Hyperliquid team, for Bitwise, for 21 shares, completely beat BlackRock and all the other large ETF players to the game here by being in the know. Bitwise bought, I think, $20 million of Hyperliquid or so in the last, I don't know, however many weeks. They want to come on the show, talk about their bull thesis. Like literally, like they launched these ETFs right when we needed them. Couldn't be better timing. I think rumors are swirling. David Shamus and Bob Diamond are hitting the ATM on PER, meaning that they are selling some PER or taking debt on their shares to buy more hype. I think they're probably doing things behind the scenes right now because they're at a nice premium. Everything's lining up for hype. People are sidelined. People are calling for $100 targets. Guys, believe in something. Dream a little bit. Please dream a little bit. $100 hype is not the end game here, guys. Rob, I mean, come on. Hyperliquid.
Yeah, not much more to say aside from Hyperliquid. I do think that we are starting to see more and more of these products. And so obviously, we've seen this play out with only pretty much with respect to the Bitcoin ecosystem, maybe the ETH ecosystem. But, what I mean is that, we've got a spot asset, we've got multiple ETFs, and we've got digital asset treasury companies. And I'm just considering to myself, obviously Hyperliquid is bullish. I think, maybe oil is not going to get as much attention now, and we're going to see more activity around some of these other assets, some of these other markets. But I'm just thinking to myself, kind of weighing, ETFs versus DATs versus spot and where it makes the most sense to get exposure. Like you're saying, the ATM, I think, means that, the DAT is taking on more debt. I don't think that they're selling hype. I think
they would be selling some PER to raise cash to buy more hype.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, which would explain a little bit of the underperformance in PER today. For example, it's only up 5.6%. Hype's up 7.5%.
Okay.
But it's still, I still am the firm believer. If hype goes up to, another 30% from here, PER will outperform. I think it's just like it's
another thing based on our conversation this morning with Arthur. Part of my curiosity was, how does this all end? Like why would the music stop? And it was essentially around AI. Given we had Ilya on and whatnot, but obviously Hyperliquid is part of his thesis. If there's a anti-AI political regime, it doesn't seem to affect hype. And so I think hype might be insulated from some of the political overhang, whereas maybe more of these AI companies may not be.
Maybe. I mean, I think it's generally just more like if AOC is the leading candidate, then people are going to freak out, I think is what Arthur was trying to say. So it probably affects all risk. But I get what you're saying. It's not like directly correlated, but, less IPOs, less excitement, less risk behavior affects hype. So
Incredible.
I've got Wilson Cusack, the head of product at Base, ready to join the show. We're going to bring him up. We're going to let you go, man. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
There's a lot going on with AI
pleasure.
and Base. So I got some things to say. Let's get
shout out to
William
World Peace.
ready to come up. Yeah. World Peace indeed. I mean, Guys, Venice, GitLab, AI tokens, Base app. I mean, stuff is happening. Stuff is happening on Base. We have to talk about it. I am bullish. I'm excited. I'm going to go straight forward. I'm not going to hold anything back. And we're going to find out what the hell is going on over there because Solana's aura is in the gutter. Base is on the come up again somehow. So we're back. We got Wilson. We got Base in a great time. Wilson, good to have you on the show, man. What's up?
Hey, glad to be here.
Yo, that's a sick background. Are you in a cabin?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Office situation.
Sweet. Nice, man. Well, as I said, Venice taking the AI world by storm. People are looking at Base apps, seeing vertical charts. People are actually excited this time about real applications of AI and blockchain. Like we had these multiple iterations of these, autonomous agents and these kind of fugazi, but now we're like private inference, private chat, delivering new models on chain, scaling the way that people are investing in compute on chain. A lot of it is happening on Base. I think Base has done a good job of being like the home of this crypto AI innovation. I know we have a lot to cover, but starting here, man, I'm sure it's been a busy past couple of weeks. Give us a state of Base.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see. I mean, from the chain point of view, you're always sort of just trying to foster serendipity, right? And so you're trying to like be in the right place at the right time. So we've done a ton of work and scaling the chain, scaling the infra, having the right partnerships, having the right teams in place. And then you're kind of hoping to be in the right place, right time. And yeah, I resonate with what you're saying about every time it's a little bit more real, And so we've had like a few of these eras of AI coins. And to some extent, it's sort of like a microcosm of the whole crypto macro, right? Like every cycle we get a little bit more real. The use cases get a little bit more real. And I think that, in the same way that crypto, it kind of became too big of a bucket to talk about all at once. Like there's so many different stories within crypto. I think we're kind of starting to see that with AI as well, in terms of like you mentioned that, we have the inference stuff, we have the stuff that Venice is doing, and then you have like the X402 stuff, the agentic stuff. There's kind of now a lot of different AI stories. And yeah, I think we're doing quite well on all of them. And so, we've had a few rounds of some of these, more AI meme coins, AI tokens, inference related stuff, but also X402 being sort of the leading agentic payments standard, and Base, leading the way there. I think we're now seeing, tens of thousands of dollars of payments a day. And so we're not in the millions a day. We got a long way to go to catch up to Visa, et cetera. But a lot of those companies are coming on chain, and I think the trajectory looks good.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think also just like the Base app in general is, the full focus on trading. It's kind of allowed people to use Base as really a home for their on-chain building wealth, building a portfolio, trading, etc. And I think, again, like not to stick too deep on this, but there is a lot of interest that is kind of leaking over from the investment in AI CapEx in SF and broadly, and that's coming on chain. And there's like some really, really quality teams building interesting technology that's getting a lot of usage. Like Venice is doing 60 billion, I think, plus tokens in production per day. A couple other smaller companies are seeing significant growth as well, seeing interest on Twitter from the likes of Sam Altman and others in the space. I guess I'm just curious, like what your perspective is on the development of the AI landscape within Base. And then, we can talk more broadly, but give us a sense of like the holistic landscape of what this looks like. I'm sure you can't name specific, companies or projects, but what does this kind of look like from the investor's perspective, from the builder's perspective? Why are people choosing Base?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, from the chain point of view, I think we're still kind of focused on like meat and potatoes sort of functionality that serves all of our users. And I think that some of that focus on the chain. And so, you'll see Brian and Jesse talk about a focus on trading, payments, agents. I think that some of that also, I don't sit on the app side as well, but sort of the app side, as you mentioned, sort of like back to basics, like let's get the must win correct. And so, what we've been very focused on is like making sure that we have the best market infrastructure, making sure that we have the best DEXs, making sure that we have the best lending protocols, and building all of these things, making sure we have the best payment rails. And then again, you're sort of like hoping that, hey, if we, I think a lot of, why are teams like Venice and stuff building on Base, I think there you know, is a brand there that people resonate with Base. And you know, you can say some of this is cheesy and being Base, but I think there is a part of it that is really real and attracts just quality builders. I think that some of this comes from Coinbase as well, right? Coinbase is just seen as a trusted name in this space that time over time has built products and done the right thing. And I think that that's why people were excited to see Base get into, or, you know, Coinbase get into the blockchain business of like, hey, here's a team that's going to be super focused on product, not noise, building something that people want and helping real builders get distribution. And so, you know, that's what we tried to do. Haven't always been perfect, but I think that, you know, it's sort of like the Bezos line of like, this quarter was baked 3 quarters ago or something. You know, the things that we're seeing happen right now, I think are like the products of like months and months and possibly some of it years of work, all culminating to like unlock what's here right now. And so it's not one thing that we did in the last couple of weeks of like, let's do, you know, let's make AI this thing. AI has for sure been top of mind, but a lot of it has just been this, you know, compounding month on month, trying to get right, trying to build the right ecosystem and relationships, support the teams that are here.
Yep. Yeah, so I remember at ETH Denver this year, it was breaking news. Base is basically going off on their own to build a more beefy chain to support the use cases.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you guys are post this kind of Azul upgrade, targeting gigagas scaling, right? Likely thinking towards agentic future. Like, hey, like these things are going to require a lot of TPS, a lot of actual kind of beefiness in terms of the product. Post Azul, where are we at with Base product, the chain, the infrastructure stack? What kind of technical improvements have been made over the last 6 months?
Yeah, and so for those, you know, not following along with every detail here, when Base started, we were building on the OP stack. We worked with Optimism for a long time, had a great relationship. But as we kind of like tried to press scaling as far as we possibly could, it became kind of like, hey, we want exactly the things we need and nothing that we don't need. And we want to build something that's purpose built to our use cases. And we also want to be able to sort of have more control of the stack to be able to ship faster and see opportunities and, you know, sprint to meet them. So Azul has landed on testnet. Actually, mainnet is supposed to be later next week. And this is kind of like the first just getting us onto the new stack. The only shift that we're seeing here is moving to more of a multi-proving architecture. So off of just the fault proving that we had for on the OP stack, moving to a multi-proving architecture. But we're trying to, you know, come right on the heels quickly. We're looking at, you know, end of June, the next hard fork. And in that, we're going to be shipping native tokens. So tokens that are sort of built into the chain itself. And this is kind of on the same theme of like, you know, trying to find these unlocks that benefit all of our use cases. And so, you know, what we're trying to do with our native tokens is first of all have, you know, a native trusted standard that people can use. And so, you know, we have templates there, and, you know, there's a stablecoin template, maybe there's a commodities template, maybe there's a equities, you know, template. And so these are trusted standards that people can use. You know, one interesting thing of teams that build both on Solana and the Ethereum ecosystem, you know, all of the SPL tokens basically run off one contract. And that gives a really simple trust model for anybody integrating with it. Whereas if you're an app that's trying to like integrate and catch the next runner, you actually have to do a lot of diligence to check like, how is this contract written? Is this a rug? You know, can the dev steal the funds or whatever? So there's some goal in just getting like a trusted template there, but there's also scaling unlocks that we can get from having our own tokens, where we in the node itself know exactly how this token works, how the storage lookups work. And so we can buy more throughput just by trying to move more activity to a token that is like highly optimized to our stack. And we can possibly give some of that back to users as well. And we can say, actually, we can discount the cost of using this token to transfer. It's a cheaper transfer cost because it's more scalable for us. And so this is something that unlocks, you know, not only cheaper and higher throughput payments, but also cheaper and higher throughput trading and cheaper and higher throughput agentic activity. So these are the kinds of things that we're looking towards. And generally just, yeah, you know, trying to a little bit of like smooth brain some of these things of just like, what are just the obvious things that would make this work better for everybody?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've came a long way with the user experience. I mean, Base app's great. The Phantom wallet's great. And it's like these small, low-level things that the end, person doesn't really know or care about, but they make a difference when it comes to scaling things in the right way. When it comes to the stablecoin side, the ties with Circle, Coinbase, you guys have also kind of placed a priority on Base Pay for stablecoin payments. Volume Base has also consistently been growing. Let's talk about this vertical of the business. Kind of ties into some of the RWA side as well, which is, as you know, all of the rage today is tokenization. Let's start with Base Pay. What is your kind of holistic view of Base as a payments chain, right? There's a consumer focus, there's a payments focus. How do you kind of reconcile the payments aspect of Base, and what are some of the drivers for the recent growth of stablecoin transaction volume?
Yeah, so Base has actually been number one for a long time in on-chain.
I thought it was Polygon, but
transfers.
all right.
There's I think it's 37 trillion in the last 12 months. But I'll just tell you openly, I think everybody knows these metrics are a little bit hard to get right because you look at a stablecoin transfer and it's hard to know exactly what was going on there. In particular, you'll see some noise around people be moving stable coins that, if you look at multi-transaction flows, are actually related to trading. And is that actually just a trading metric, or is it a stable coin metric?
Yeah.
I think we have great partnerships. I think we've invested in making sure we have great on and off ramps to Base, which are very critical. I was a big part of a big part of my last year was on the Shopify partnership, and
Nice.
seeing them settle their sort of doing their stable coin checkout experience settled to Base. Teams like Slash, which is a cool neobank, they now have their own stablecoin on Base, and they have a Visa card so you can use it globally. I think to your question, the Base maintains sort of this. We have our focuses, but we're still sort of in this general purpose blockchain space. We think that having an open programmable blockchain is very important. We think there's sort of a few must-win categories right now of trading tokens. These are the fundamental building blocks, and winning here is important for everything that comes next. Payments is also just really just looking at what are the things that today blockchain is making 10 to 100x better than the off-chain version of it. That's, those are the areas that we want to win. But we also anticipate that the future is going to have all kinds of unexpected ideas, things that we couldn't think of. And those are sort of I kind of think of the beta of the known opportunity of bringing all traditional finance on chain, and the alpha of what is unknown that comes next. Yeah. And so I think that there are probably more ecosystem benefits and network effect benefits than people maybe typically admit. And so if you're asking, how can Base be doing, stable coins and payments, and, how does that rank against the trading? And I think that there is just this idea that trading and lending and payments, these are all sort of financial use cases that are often proximate to each other, and services that serve a user in one case often serve users in the other. And so, Base wants to be the best sort of one-stop shop for this permissionless finance, that you can, it's sort of the instant global, and then fill in the blank, instant global trading, instant global borrow lend, instant global, payments. And I think so far we're doing a pretty good job. We're able to deliver sub-cent transactions both for the trading use case and for the payments use case. Now, in the payments use case, there's a lot of those customers are looking for a whole set of services that are built on top of that. And so, of course, we're working really closely with our partners in CDP, and that's a team that's a Coinbase developer platform. They originally wrote the X42 standard, but also external teams, Privy, others. They're building on Base. We have great relationships with them. And that's sort of helping sell the whole stack of payment services that people want.
Number one. That was my mistake. I thought it was Polygon. The Polygon army's gonna come get you.
Yeah.
One of the things that Solana has been, let's just give some context. Solana versus Base was the war. I mean, it was, but Solana has chosen to go after Hyperliquid now and perps and Phoenix Trade and push this idea that Solana is a place for perps. And so they've kind of given you guys a little bit of a break. But I see a very clear spot trading winner here. Hyperliquid's kind of dominating perps. It's going to be hard to compete with them or lighter or variational. It's kind of like maybe not even worth it in a sense. But there's a on-chain DEX spot market for crypto assets. And then what we're now seeing with recent rumors from the SEC is also an innovation exemption for tokenized equity, specifically on-chain, making them tradable. And so there's going to be a on-chain spot depth liquidity begets liquidity war for all crypto assets and then non-crypto assets. And I kind of see it as Base versus Solana. Maybe you don't see it that way, but I do. And so I'm curious, how do you guys go from 4 or 5 billion TVL? How do you take that kind of strength and that capital, grow that significantly, and be the home for the best liquidity on-chain, best execution for spot trading crypto assets, and then also non-crypto assets? I think this is a place where Base can make a ton of money and also establish serious market share and dominance. How do you keep winning this category?
Yeah, good question. I mean, on the setup, I agree that we're competitive with Solana. I admire the Solana team. I think they've done a lot of great work, and they're a motivating competitor to have. I also, I highly respect the ecosystem. So you mentioned Phoenix and Ellipsis Trade. I talk to the team there pretty frequently, actually, when I want second opinions on things. And so a lot of good builders over there, and they've done a really good job, scaling their chain. But yeah, this spot market is the number one metric that I watch to see sort of the value of the product that we're providing. What is our share relatively of, the DEX spot market among other chains? Yep. And for most of last year, it was sub 10%. We're now actually, if you look at the last couple days, we're at 20%. But recently, the trend for this quarter is like 15%. Our goal for the year is to become number one by spot trading volume. What we focus on here is, and I think that, a lot of our focus, so there's a trading focus, and then I think within trading, we have a big focus on quality assets. And so part of that is just crypto majors. And so a number that we look at is just, what are the spreads on BTC and ETH and other major assets on Base versus everywhere else. And I can tell you, we have the number one spreads right now on BTC and ETH, or somebody's going to come after me and tell me I'm wrong. But we have our own dashboards that we watch. Maybe somebody can educate me. And so we want to make sure, like, hey, even if people hate Base for whatever reason, if we have the best trade execution, it's the best product. You have to send your orders there, or else your user hostile. The other focus on quality assets, like you mentioned, tokenized equities would be very cool to get something going there. We've done these, tokenized stock indexes with Centrifuge. We have the tokenized S&P 500, and I think that this, it speaks to the value of tokenization. So I think that like tokenization still matters. The Hyperliquid team has, operated very well. But, Hypercore is not a general programmable environment. And so you cannot sort of use these perps in like a programmable environment where you can send them between, different protocols and stuff. And so I do think that, and I understand the playbook, but like, I think tokenization is harder, but I think that tokenization matters and is important because you get the whole open permissionless finance ecosystem. And so, when we saw Centrifuge launch their tokenized S&P 500 on Base, the day one, they had integrations with Aerodrome, they had Borrow on Morpho, and they had shorting on Euler. And, this is like the kind of stuff that we would have dreamed about like 3 years ago, right? Of like, oh, it's like actually here, open permissionless finance, S&P 500. Anybody who like has the thing can like go and borrow. It's extremely cool. And I think it matters. And so I do think that like this general programmability is important. And we'll see, I think perps are their own game. That's quite hard to win. Of course, we have some teams on Base competing there as well. But yeah, that's kind of my thought on tokenization and the numbers that we watch to try to win here. And I think it's just a matter of like, we just have to have the best products. We just have to have the best execution, and then the orders will come.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we've been thinking about it with the tokenized side as well, in the sense that a lot of us in the space had been thinking about these blockchains and these DeFi protocols, these applications for solely crypto assets, meaning, there's a couple $1 trillion in the market cap, 100 billion on chain. This is our TAM. Maybe we get to 10 trillion, maybe we get to $1 trillion on chain. Great. But it's like that entire notion has been just completely shattered over the last, I mean, it feels like 6 months, but really over the last year or so, where it's becoming very clear that the on-chain environment that we're building is not just for crypto assets. It's for high quality speculative assets, high quality non-speculative assets, tons of tokenized equities, T-bills, money market funds, private credit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's coming on chain. It's going to be tradable. It's going to be borrowable.
Yeah.
It's going to be lendable. It's
Yeah.
going to be able to put into an index product. These things that you're mentioning with the S&P 500 on Base is exactly the example. And so I think like when you start to extrapolate that, the value of Base, the value of Centrifuge, the value of Euler, the value of Aerodrome, all these applications, there's a re-rating that's going to happen in investors' minds when they realize that this is not just the little crypto ecosystem that these applications and products and chains are built for. It is actually for whatever the total flow of global finance coming on chain equates to be in the next couple years, 10 years, 20 years. And even if we just chip away with BIPs in the next couple years, it is a meaningful increase to what is currently on chain. Thus, you know, this re-rating should be significant. And so I think a lot of people are starting to grasp this. We just keep hammering this home. It feels like every day, like guys, like think about what's actually happening with the tokenized equity asset space and reset your priors about what the scope of what we're trying to achieve here is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's proximate to the sort of Chris Dixon of like, it starts looking like a toy, right? And you sort of build all these things. I think, you and I were both in like the NFT fractional or financing stuff for a bit. And it's like, you build the thing for the dog pitcher and it ends up working for the subprime mortgage or whatever. And then I think, it's interesting. I don't know, things never analogize perfectly, but there's a part of me that also wonders, right? Like, again, the size of the skeuomorphic version of it versus the size of like the on-chain native version, right? And so like the internet comes around and somebody's like, oh, I get it. Like you could put the New York Times on this website. And it's like, yeah, but it's much bigger than that, And so I do wonder, maybe you could say financial markets are a bit different and sort of like actually the biggest thing in crypto will be just bringing the existing financial stuff on chain. But I think that there's a part of crypto that's just sort of a generative experiment in like what happens if the marginal cost of sending money goes to like nothing and the marginal time goes to nothing. What sorts of like things get built? I would say that like prediction markets so far are, the thing we've seen there. Obviously there's big winners in Kalshi and Polymarket, but Limitless on Base is also doing quite well. Did 200 million in volume last month, is now the number 5 prediction market chain, prediction market exchange. So yeah, a lot of bringing the world on chain to be done. And then I think a lot of still just things to be discovered of like what is possible in this new world.
Yeah, man. Well, Wilson, kind of some closing thoughts here. Just what do you have to say to the Base community, the people who use the chain, who have supported you guys? I mean, they want to know about, Base token, what's coming next, what the next alpha is, any words of gratitude for the community?
I mean, of course, thankful for the community and all the amazing builders we have. I would say generally my energy is, show, don't tell, less talky, more shippy. So I'm personally just trying to sort of put my head down and make sure we have the best product possible. Really excited about the Azul launch and excited about some of the things we have coming next. And I think the feeling we have internally is it's just starting to snowball and accelerate. So I'm excited for the rest of this year.
Love it. Wilson, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the cabin. Looks beautiful. And we'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. See ya. Appreciate it.
Cheers, buddy. Had to slip the little when token in there. Not sure that was on the PR sheet. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. Simon Taylor, Scott Shay, Wilson Cusack, War is Over, Hyperliquid Zcash near, Arthur Hayes. Episode coming out on Monday. You are watching The Rollup, where digital assets and finance converge, live from the financial capital of the world. Thanks for rocking with us. We'll see you guys tomorrow.